You know, if you were tasked with protecting, like, the crown jewels of a modern technology empire, your mind immediately goes to the vault.
Right, the cinematic stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You picture the laser grids, you know, the seismic sensors embedded in the concrete floor, the biometric scanners that check your retinas and your heartbeat before the 2-ton steel door even thinks about unlocking.
Well, and in the digital world, that vault translates to incredibly complex architecture.
Right.
It's the things that look phenomenally impressive on a compliance dashboard, and cost tens of millions of dollars to implement.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking military-grade encryption, zero-trust network perimeters.
Air-gapped servers.
Exactly. Air-gapped servers, continuous red teaming. We focus our absolute best minds and, honestly, our biggest budgets entirely on the perimeter defense of the most obvious high-value target.
You pour all your resources into making that central vault impenetrable. It's a marvel of modern engineering. Nobody is getting through that door. But then, in a twist that you couldn't even sell to a Hollywood screenwriter because it's too absurd, right?
Yeah.
It turns out the chief architect just casually left the blueprints, the combination code, and like a highly detailed inventory of everything inside the vault sitting on a public park bench right down the street.
And not just left it there for a moment, they left it there permanently by default, without a single person in the organization even realizing it was fully exposed to anyone who just happened to be walking by on a sunny afternoon.
That is the staggering irony we are looking at today. We are exploring how a company whose entire brand identity, literally their entire stated reason for existing in the market,
Right.
is built on the concepts of AI safety, rigorous security, and responsible development, somehow managed to accidentally leak the operational secrets of its most powerful, potentially dangerous AI models.
It's wild.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we are unpacking the wild, frankly, unbelievable events of March 2026 over at Anthropic.
It really is a masterclass in operational contradictions.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, you have the absolute apex of technological sophistication.
Mm-hmm.
Artificial intelligence that is beginning to reason and act autonomously.
Mm-hmm.
And on the exact same day, in the exact same company, you have a foundational failure of basic entry-level administrative hygiene.
We have a massive stack of sources to guide us through this paradox today. We are looking at verified financial reporting from Fortune, Bloomberg, CNBC, Sharecast, and Yahoo Finance.
Lots of data.
So much data. We've got incredibly detailed analyst notes from Wedbush, Raymond James, and Berenberg. Plus, we are looking directly at the internal Anthropic documentation and research reports that actually came to light during this incident.
The primary sources.
Exactly. Our mission today is to look at this massive, unforced error that literally wiped billions of dollars off the cybersecurity stock market in a single trading session.
Billions.
Yeah. And we're going to contrast that massive leak with the incredibly powerful paradigm-shifting tools that Anthropic actually shipped on purpose that exact same month. And most importantly, we're going to connect what this means for you, especially if you work in or adjacent to enterprise IT, governance, or security.
Because that's where the real lesson is hidden. I mean, we aren't just here to rubberneck at a corporate mistake.
No.
We are looking at the fundamental tension between the blinding exponential speed of AI tool development and the creeping, often completely stagnant reality of enterprise IT governance.
Yeah.
The tools we are building are racing toward total autonomy, while the corporate policies and the human infrastructure meant to contain them they're still stubbornly stuck in the early 2010s.
Okay, let's unpack this. We need to start with the anatomy of what actually happened.
The timeline.
Right, the verified timeline, because the way this played out in the press versus what actually occurred technically is fascinating. So on March 26, 2026, Fortune drops a bombshell report. They reveal that Anthropic had accidentally exposed internal unpublished content. We're talking about close to 3,000 assets linked to Anthropic's blog that were just, sitting there, publicly accessible in an unsecured data store.
And we have to be incredibly precise about our terminology right out of the gate here.
Please do.
Because the immediate reaction in the general public, and often in the boardroom, frankly, whenever data is exposed, is to scream hack or breach.
Right, panic mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this was absolutely not a cyber attack. There was no zero-day exploit.
Let's pause right there for just a second, because zero-day gets thrown around a lot on the news.
It does.
Just to ground us, a zero-day exploit is essentially a flaw in a piece of software that the software creator doesn't know about yet, right? So they have had 0 days to fix it. It's like the ultimate hacker trump card.
Exactly. A zero-day is a novel, previously unknown vulnerability. It requires immense skill to discover and exploit. It's the kind of thing nation-states use. But in this Anthropic incident, there was no zero-day. There were no Russian or North Korean state-sponsored threat actors typing furiously in green code on a black screen to bypass firewalls.
No cinematic hacking.
None. There was no credential theft. Nobody phished an executive's password with a fake email.
So if it wasn't a sophisticated heist, what was it? Because losing 3,000 internal documents sounds like a massive security failure.
It was. But this was the boring reality of a data exposure. Like the most boring, mundane reality imaginable. According to Anthropic's own official statement, which they were forced to issue to clean up the mess the next day, the root cause was simple human error in the configuration of their content management system, or CMS.
A CMS.
Yeah, CMS is just the software you use to draft, edit, and publish web pages and blog posts.
Like WordPress, right?
Exactly like WordPress or Contentful. The system Anthropic was using was simply configured so that any uploaded asset, whether as a draft, an image, or a PDF memo, was set to public by default. Yeah. Unless a human being explicitly clicked into the settings and manually changed a toggle to private, it was on the open web.
It's the digital equivalent of a door that doesn't latch unless you physically pull it shut, turn the deadbolt, and check the handle.
Right.
If you just walk through it and let it swing behind you, it stays wide open.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, think of a CMS not just as a filing cabinet, but as a hotel lobby.
Okay.
By default, anyone can walk into the lobby off the street, sit on the couch, and read the magazine sitting on the coffee table.
Sure.
Unless a human employee actively puts a velvet rope around a specific magazine and stands guard over it, which is the equivalent of checking the private box in the software, the default state of that lobby is public consumption.
Yeah.
And to go back to our earlier analogy, they built a $1 billion laser grid protected bank vault for their core AI models.
Yeah.
The actual neural network code, the model weights, the training infrastructure, which remained completely secure, by the way.
Very important point, yes.
But they left the blueprints sitting on the coffee table in the hotel lobby.
What's fascinating here is the psychological blind spot this reveals in modern tech companies.
How so?
Well, when we think about protecting an AI company, we think about protecting the model weights. We think about API layer security.
Right.
We spend millions red teaming the outputs to prevent prompt injection attacks, where, users try to trick the AI into doing bad things.
Right, the sexy security stuff.
Exactly. We focus all our brilliant security minds and all our budget on the novel, futuristic threats. And in doing so, we completely ignore the mundane, traditional IT infrastructure.
Wow.
To a top-tier security engineer, auditing the settings on the marketing team's blog software doesn't feel like a high-value target. It feels like janitorial work.
But the hotel lobby holds the strategy, so how does this actually get discovered?
Good question.
If it wasn't a malicious hacker probing the defenses looking for a way in, who actually finds 3,000 hidden files?
Well, it turns out it was just independent security researchers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Fortune report names two of them. Roy Paz at Layer X Security and Alexandra Pauls, a researcher at the University of Cambridge.
Okay.
And here's the kicker. They found this data merely by having a web browser and a reason to look.
Wait, how does that practically work? If there's no link to click on the homepage, how do you find an invisible file?
It's a technique known as directory traversal or directory listing, and it is incredibly simple.
Okay.
They didn't have to bypass a firewall or write a custom script. They essentially just went to their browser, typed in the web address for the directory where Anthropic stores its images or drafts, something like anthropic.com sets drafts, and hit enter.
Just hit enter.
You just hit enter.
Yeah.
In a properly configured server, if you try to visit a folder rather than a specific web page, the server will throw a 403 forbidden error.
Right, the classic error page.
Right. It basically says, you don't have permission to see a list of what's in here. But because of the misconfiguration, the server happily handed them a plain text index list of all 3,000 URLs.
Oh my gosh.
It just showed them every file in the folder. It is the kind of vulnerability you look for on day one of an entry-level cybersecurity bootcamp.
Which brings us to the ultimate irony factor of this whole debacle.
Oh, yeah.
Think about Anthropic's identity. This isn't just an ordinary tech startup pushing software updates. This is a company founded by researchers who famously left OpenAI specifically because they felt OpenAI wasn't taking safety and security seriously enough.
Exactly.
Anthropic's entire thesis is built on constitutional AI. They literally build tools designed to autonomously detect complex vulnerabilities in software code bases.
Right.
And yet, they fell victim to an intern-level IT configuration error.
It is a profound irony, but if we zoom out and look at the architecture of a modern enterprise, it's also a deeply human one.
What do you mean?
Well, it shows that no matter how advanced your core technology is, an organization is still made of human beings making mundane administrative choices every single day. A company can have the most advanced artificial intelligence in the world, capable of passing the bar exam or writing a complex kernel driver from scratch, but if the human setting up the cloud deployment forgets to check a single permissions box, the whole facade of security crumbles.
It's terrifying when you put it like that.
It is.
So Fortune reviewed the documents, realized what they had, and notified Anthropic on Thursday, March 26th.
Right.
To their credit, Anthropic locked it down that exact same evening. The containment was fast, but, the horse had already bolted.
Yeah, the journalists and the researchers already had the files.
Exactly.
The door was left open, yes.
Yeah.
But the real story isn't the open door, it's what was sitting on the table inside.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. What exactly did those researchers find in those 3,000 assets? Because it wasn't just old holiday party photos and formatting templates.
No, not at all. It was a treasure trove of unvarnished corporate strategy.
Wow.
We're talking heavily detailed draft blog posts, internal audio files, PDFs of presentations, and roadmap images. As we noted, it wasn't the actual source code of the models, but it was the entire narrative roadmap of where the company was heading.
Yeah.
And in the tech industry, knowing exactly what your competitor's going to ship 6 months from now is often just as valuable as having the code itself.
So let's meet the stars of the leak. The terminology that sent shockwaves through the tech press and the financial sector.
Right.
Prior to this leak, we all knew Anthropic's existing model tiers. You've got Haiku, which is their smallest, fastest, and cheapest model, the one you use for quick, simple tasks.
Yep.
You've got Sonnet, the balanced middle child that most people use day to day.
Wow.
And you've got Opus, which was up until March 2026, their absolute flagship, their most capable heavy-duty model.
Exactly.
But the leak revealed a brand new tier sitting entirely above Opus, a tier internally called Capybara.
Right. And to understand why a new tier is a big deal, we need to talk briefly about how these models are structured.
Please do.
When companies release different tiers, they're usually manipulating two main things: parameter counts and context windows. Think of parameters like the synapses in a human brain. The more parameters, the more complex reasoning the model can handle, but the more expensive and slow it is to run.
Makes sense?
The context window is the model's short-term memory, like how many pages of a book it can hold in its head at one time while answering your question.
Got it.
Capybara was described in these internal drafts as a massive leap in both. It wasn't just a step up, it was an entirely new pricing and capability tier. The most capable, and crucially, the most computationally expensive tier they've ever designed.
And the leaked documents actually had some specific claims, right?
They did. The drafts claimed Capybara achieved, and I'm quoting the leaked document here, dramatically higher scores on tests of software coding, academic reasoning, and cybersecurity compared to their current flagship, which was Claude Opus 4.6.
Wow. Okay, so Capybara is the tier, the category name.
Yeah.
But the specific model that was going to populate that new top tier was the real bombshell.
Yes.
A model internally referred to as Claude Mythos.
Right, Mythos.
The drafts described Mythos as by far the most powerful AI model we've ever developed. But it was the next line in the draft that really caught everyone's attention and eventually caused the market panic.
That's the one.
It was an internal warning that Mythos is currently far ahead of any other AI model in cyber capabilities.
That phrase right there, cyber capabilities, is the pivot point of this entire story.
Why?
It completely moves the conversation from AI as a helpful writing assistant or AI as a fast programmer to AI as a potential digital weapon.
Oh, wow.
The leaked draft was remarkably candid. It noted that the model was incredibly expensive to run, but more importantly, it explicitly stated that Mythos was not yet ready for general release, precisely because of how powerful it was at finding and potentially exploiting software vulnerabilities.
Okay, I have to push back here, or at least express some sheer bewilderment.
Go for it.
We have a model, Mythos. Anthropic knows it is so powerful, so potentially dangerous in the realm of cybersecurity that they are intentionally holding it back from the public. In fact, Axios had reported just days later, on March 29th, that Anthropic executives had been spending weeks privately briefing top government officials, specifically warning them about Mythos.
Yeah, they were doing the rounds.
They were telling the government that large-scale cyber attacks become significantly more likely once models at the capability level of Mythos reach wide distribution.
Exactly.
So if you are the CEO and you know the model is that sensitive, how on earth does a draft blog post detailing its exact capabilities just sit on a public server? Why is anyone even writing a blog post yet?
It's a fantastic question, and it highlights a massive problem with the siloed nature of corporate communication, especially in hyper-growth startups.
Okay.
Think about who is actually doing what in the building. The people building the models, red teaming them, and briefing the government officials. Those are the core engineering and safety teams, the executives.
Right.
They are operating in a highly classified, zero-trust mindset. They treat the model like it's radioactive.
Right. They are treating it like a national security asset.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But the people drafting the blog posts, that's the marketing, public relations, and communications teams, they have a completely different mandate.
Yeah.
They are tasked with eventually selling this thing to enterprise customers. They need to prepare the launch materials, the graphics, the press releases, long before the product actually ships.
So they're just doing their jobs?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're operating in a completely different digital environment, likely using third-party collaboration tools, shared drives, and CMS platforms that prioritize speed, sharing, and collaboration over strict security.
Wow.
The disconnect is that the high-level, paranoid security mindset of the engineering team never trickled down to the administrative policies governing the marketing team's tools. The left hand is briefing the Pentagon, and the right hand is drafting a public WordPress post.
It's the classic organizational disconnect, but with world-altering technology in the balance.
Yeah.
And what I found fascinating reading through these sources is that it wasn't just dry technical specs about parameter counts that leaked.
Not at all.
The details found by these researchers were incredibly colorful, the kind of stuff you'd expect to find in an espionage thriller, not a B2B tech blog.
Right.
For instance, among the 3,000 files was a PDF detailing a highly secretive, invite-only, 2-day retreat for European enterprise CEOs.
Yeah, this was wild.
Where was it taking place? At an 18th century English countryside manor, and Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei was scheduled to be there leading it. It sounds like a meeting of the Illuminati.
It does sound like a movie script, but we have to linger on the implications of a document like that.
What do you mean?
Why is the CEO of an American AI company holding secret meetings with European heads of enterprise at a secluded manner?
Oh, because of the regulations.
Exactly. Because Anthropic knows that the EU AI Act, which was rolling out around this time, is the strictest, most comprehensive regulatory framework for artificial intelligence on the planet. This leak didn't just expose a new product here. It exposed Anthropic's quiet, back-channel lobbying strategy. They are trying to shape global AI law and court the biggest European buyers before the models are even legally cleared for release in some jurisdictions.
So from a corporate espionage standpoint, knowing exactly which European CEOs Anthropic is courting and exactly when they will all be in the same room with Dario Amodei is incredibly valuable competitive intelligence for a rival like OpenAI or Google.
It's priceless intelligence.
Yeah.
It's the exact kind of thing a corporate spy would pay millions for, and it was just sitting in an open directory.
So the leak happens, the researchers find it, Fortune publishes it, the world sees the drafts and the Manor House invitations.
Yep.
What does Anthropic do? They have to scramble and put out an official statement.
They do.
A spokesperson comes out, and this statement was verified by Fortune, and they execute this masterful, almost brilliant piece of PR spin.
Oh, it's textbook.
They say, and I quote, "We're developing a general-purpose model with meaningful advances in reasoning, coding, and cybersecurity. Given the strength of its capabilities, we're being deliberate about how we release it. We consider this model a step change and the most capable we've built to date." They go on to brush off the leaked files as just early drafts of content considered for publication.
It is a textbook crisis communication response.
Yeah.
You have to admire the judo move they pulled off there.
Totally.
Notice what they do. They don't deny a single fact. They don't say the Fortune report is wrong.
Right.
Instead, they own the narrative by reframing a disastrous administrative leak as a testament to their own power and their deep sense of responsibility. Yes, The model is incredibly powerful, which is exactly why we are being so deliberate and responsible.
Wow.
It turns a glaring security failure into a marketing humble brag.
It's brilliant.
Okay.
We are so smart and powerful that even our mistakes are proof of our dominance.
Exactly. But if you read between the lines of that statement, you have to note what isn't confirmed.
What did they leave out?
They never explicitly confirmed that the final product tier name will actually be Capybara. They never released the specific benchmark numbers or the testing methodology they use to claim it was a step change.
Right, no hard data.
Exactly. We still don't know the parameter counts, the context window sizes, or the detailed architecture of Mythos. We just have the narrative ghost of what it can supposedly do. It confirmed the vibe, but not the specs.
But the ghost was enough.
It was.
I mean, it's one thing for tech blogs and Reddit forums to gossip about a leaked roadmap and argue over parameter counts. It's an entirely different reality when that gossip hits the terminal screens of Wall Street traders and triggers a massive sector-wide financial sell-off.
Oh, yeah?
And that is exactly what happened the next morning. We have to talk about the Wall Street earthquake that followed this leak.
Because the market doesn't care about the irony of a CMS misconfiguration.
No.
The market only cares about the economic implications of the technology being described in those leaked documents. And what Wall Street read in those drafts absolutely terrified them.
Terrified is the right word. Let's read the scoreboard from the March 27 trading session, the day after the Fortune report broke. This is verified data from Sharecast, Bloomberg, and Yahoo Finance.
Okay.
It was an absolute bloodbath for the traditional cybersecurity sector. CrowdStrike, down anywhere from 5.4% to 7% on the day.
Massive.
Palo Alto Networks, down 5.5% to 6%. Zscaler dropped between 4.5% and 5.6%.
Wow.
Tenable plummeted 8.3%. Netscope down 6.3%. Okta dropped between 5% and 8%.
It just kept going.
Even the Global X Cybersecurity ETF, which tracks the performance of the whole sector, fell 4.5%, hitting its lowest point since November 2023. We are talking about billions and billions of dollars in market capitalization simply evaporating in a matter of hours, all because of a draft blog post.
If you zoom out and look at the market mechanics here, we have to ask why the panic was so violent and so highly targeted at cybersecurity vendors.
Right.
It wasn't just a general tech sell-off. Microsoft and Apple weren't cratering. It was specifically the defenders. And the reason goes back to a specific phrase in the leaked draft. The draft warned that Mythos could enable a wave of models that could exploit vulnerabilities in ways that far outpace the efforts of defenders. Investors read that and saw an existential threat to the current business model of cybersecurity.
Explain that for the listener who might not be deep into cyber economics. What does exploit vulnerabilities actually mean for these companies?
Well, to understand that, we need to look at what Anthropic had proven they could do that exact same week, in reality, not just in theory.
Okay.
The context here is crucial. Wall Street was already skittish, because this was not the first time Anthropic caused a panic in the cyber sector.
Right.
Just 1 month prior, in February 2026, Anthropic launched a feature called Claude Code Security. It's a tool built right into Claude that actively scans enterprise code bases for vulnerabilities.
Right.
When they launched it, Anthropic's Frontier Red team published a research paper showing that their previous flagship, Claude Opus 4.6, had natively found over 500 high-severity vulnerabilities in production open-source code bases.
Wait, 500 0 days? In code that was already live?
Yes, in code bases that had supposedly already been audited by human security teams and traditional static analysis tools.
Wow.
And we need to explain how an AI finds a 0 day differently than a legacy scanner.
Breeze.
Traditional scanners, the kind sold by many of the companies whose stock plummeted, mostly work on signatures. They look for known bad patterns like checking a wanted poster, or they look for basic syntax errors.
Okay.
But an advanced LLM like Claude actually understands the semantic logic of the code. It reads the code and says, I see what you're trying to do here. But logically, if a user inputs this specific weird edge case, your logic breaks and lets them bypass authentication.
It's the difference between spell check and a human editor who realizes your plot has a massive hole in it?
Exactly, that's a perfect analogy. So that February launch proved Claude could find novel vulnerabilities faster and better than legacy tools. That triggered a broad sector sell-off in February.
So they were already on edge.
Yes. So fast forward to March. When the leak happens, revealing a new model Mythos that is supposedly a massive step change above the model that just found 500 0 days, investors slam the panic button.
I mean, I would too.
Right. If an AI can autonomously find and exploit logical vulnerabilities faster than a human defender can even read the alert, then what is the value of a traditional human-led security operations center?
It drops to zero.
What happens to the business model of companies selling endpoint detection or vulnerability scanning if Anthropic is building an omniscient, automated cyber engine?
So what does this all mean for the future of the industry?
Well, it's debated.
The market reacted, but is the market actually right? We have all these brilliant analysts on Wall Street looking at the exact same leaked documents, and they come to wildly different conclusions.
They really do.
Let's look at the debate, because this is where it gets really contentious. On one side, you have Adam Tindall, an analyst over at Raymond James. He looks at this leak and sees a fundamental structural shift. In his note, he warns about the compression of traditional defensive advantages.
Yes.
He's basically saying the economic moat that cybersecurity companies have built over the last 20 years is shrinking rapidly because the AI can just jump right over it.
Tyndall's argument is rooted in the fundamental economics of defense versus offense in cyber warfare.
How so?
Historically, defense is incredibly expensive because it requires you to be right 100% of the time across every single endpoint and server.
And the attacker.
The attacker only needs to be right once. To manage that asymmetry, enterprises built massive, layered architectures, firewalls, endpoint agents, cloud access brokers.
Right.
Tyndall is suggesting that a model like Mythos shifts the economics so drastically in favor of the attacker by automating the discovery of vulnerabilities at near zero marginal cost that traditional defensive spending might become obsolete or at least require a complete architectural overhaul from scratch.
But then you have Dan Ives at Wedbush Securities.
Right, the bull.
Yeah, Dan is notoriously bullish on tech, and he looks at the exact same bloodbath, the exact same leaked document about Mythos, and he says, no, everyone has it wrong. This is a bullish signal for cybersecurity.
Classic Dan Ives.
He argues that Anthropic's moves into the space actually validate the importance of the sector. His take is that an AI like Claude, no matter how smart, is not going to entirely replace traditional vendors. It's just going to augment them. He sees this as a catalyst for a massive upgrade cycle in security spending, not the death of the sector.
Ives is betting on two things: enterprise inertia and the corporate need for accountability.
Explain the inertia part first.
Think about a chief information security officer, a CISO, at a Fortune 500 bank. They aren't going to fire their entire security team and unplug Palo Alto networks just because Claude can find bugs faster.
True.
They were going to demand that Palo Alto integrates Claude-like capabilities into their existing trusted dashboards. Ives believes the legacy vendors will just license or build the AI and sell it at a premium.
See, I hear Dan Ives arguing this is bullish for cybersecurity, but I honestly think he might be entirely missing the point here.
How so?
If I'm a CFO and I am looking at my budget and I realize I can pay Anthropic a fraction of a cent per token to run a script that does the exact same network vulnerability scan that Tenable charges me $150,000 a year for, enterprise inertia isn't going to save Tenable.
That's a fair point.
The CFO is going to force the CISO to make the change. Why would I buy the expensive legacy wrapper when I can just buy the raw intelligence engine?
You're making a logical economic argument, but it assumes the AI is perfectly reliable right out of the box, which is a massive leap.
Yeah, that's true.
And more importantly, Ives is betting on the fact that CISOs buy traditional security tools for liability protection just as much as technological protection.
What do you mean by liability protection?
Well, if your bank gets hacked and the regulators come knocking and you say, well, we paid millions for Palo Alto Networks and CrowdStrike and they missed it, the regulators say, okay, you followed industry best practices, it's the vendor's fault.
I see.
But if you get hacked and you say, well, we fired our vendors and just wrote a custom script using Anthropic's API to scan our network, the regulators are going to fine you into oblivion for negligence.
Wow.
You can't sue an AI model if it misses a 0 day. You can sue a vendor. That liability shield is why enterprise inertia is so strong.
Okay, that is a fascinating point. The product isn't just the code. The product is someone to blame.
Exactly.
And then you have Berenberg offering perhaps the most grounded, least hyperbolic take of the three. They noted that the leaked Capybara tier is likely just delivering incremental advances in reasoning and coding.
Right.
They argue that the functionality being discussed isn't theoretically new, it's just faster and more scalable than what we already have.
It's the sober view. But let me ask you to consider the specific case of Tenable since you brought them up.
Okay.
They dropped 8.3% in one day. Tenable's whole core business model is vulnerability management. They scan your networks, Compare your software versions against a massive database of known flaws and tell you where your weak spots are. If Anthropic is building an AI that can supposedly do that natively, faster, cheaper, and find unknown flaws, is an 8.3% drop an irrational overreaction to an unreleased, unpriced product like Mythos? Or is the market actually accurately pricing in the beginning of the end for legacy vulnerability scanners?
I think it's a classic Wall Street overreaction in the short term, but it reflects a very rational long-term anxiety.
Yeah.
It is irrational to wipe billions off a company's valuation based on a draft blog post for a product that doesn't even have a release date. Tenable has thousands of entrenched enterprise contracts, compliance certifications, and deep integrations that Anthropic does not have. You can't just swap them out overnight.
Oh, you can't.
However, the anxiety is totally rational because the trajectory of the technology threatens their core value proposition.
Exactly.
If an AI agent can not only find the vulnerability, but autonomously write the patch and deploy it before a human even sees an alert, the value of just providing a list of problems, which is essentially what legacy scanners do, drops to near zero.
It does.
The market is trying to price in a future where the very definition of a cybersecurity product radically changes from detection to autonomous remediation.
And that perfectly connects the theoretical panic of Wall Street to the actual tangible reality of what Anthropic was doing in March.
How so?
Because Wall Street was reacting to the ghost of a future model, Mythos. But to understand why investors took that ghost so seriously, to understand why the panic was so visceral, we have to look at the very real things Anthropic actually shipped that same month.
Right.
Because March 2026 wasn't just the month of the CMS leak. It was an absolute feature frenzy.
It was arguably one of the most significant months in the company's history in terms of actual product delivery. They shipped more paradigm-shifting features in 4 weeks than most enterprise software companies ship in a decade.
Let's talk about the biggest one. The one that fundamentally changes the game and makes the threat of Mythos so credible.
Okay.
In March 2026, Claude computer use officially reached general availability.
This is huge.
It is. This isn't a research preview anymore. It is live for enterprise customers. For the listener who might not be deep in the weeds on the mechanics of this, Claude can now control a computer directly.
Right.
It can move the mouse, it can click, it can type on the keyboard, it can read the screen, understand what it's looking at, and interact with the user interface just like a human being sitting at a desk.
Okay, we need to explain how it actually does this because people might just assume it's plugged into the back end of the software. It's not using back end APIs, right?
Correct, and this is the crucial distinction. We have spent the last 3 years in the chatbot paradigm.
Yeah.
You type a prompt into a box, the AI generates text, and you, the human, have to take that text, copy it, and actually do something with it.
Oh.
You are the operator. The AI is the advisor.
Right.
With computer use, the AI is literally taking constant screenshots of your desktop. It maps a complex pixel grid over the image to understand spatial relations, where the buttons are, where the text boxes are. Then, it outputs JSON coordinates that tell the operating system exactly where to move the cursor. It is visually interpreting the UI just like your human eyes do.
So if Claude is acting autonomously, clicking buttons on a screen, is it essentially just a super-powered macro script? Like the old Excel macros we used to record, just faster?
It's actually fundamentally different than a macro, and that difference is what makes it so powerful.
How so?
A macro is rigid. It records exact coordinates. If a website updates and the submit button moves 2 pixels to the left, a macro clicks empty space and fails.
Oh, right.
Claude, because it possesses semantic understanding of the visual space, looks at the screen, realizes the button moved, understands that it still needs to click submit, and adjusts its coordinates on the fly. It understands the intent of the task, not just wrote sequential steps.
It's the difference between having a super smart dictionary sitting on your desk and having an intern who can actually pull up a chair, take control of your mouse, open Salesforce, visually cross-reference it with an Excel spreadsheet on the other monitor, write an email in Outlook, and hit send.
Exactly.
The dictionary gives you information, the intern executes the task.
Precisely. It shifts Claude from an advisor to an agent. And the enterprise implications of this are staggering.
They really are.
If you have an AI agent that operates software autonomously through the visual UI, you no longer need complex, expensive API integrations between all your software tools.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Historically, if you wanted Salesforce to talk to Workday, you had to pay engineers to build a bridge between their APIs. Now, the AI doesn't need the API. It just looks at the screen and clicks the buttons, same as an employee.
That's insane.
This bypasses decades of enterprise software integration strategy. The API might become obsolete for many internal workflows.
But it also introduces massive new operational risks.
Oh, absolutely.
If Claude is moving the mouse, whose credentials is it using? Who is logging the actions? If Claude hallucinates because it thinks it's doing the right thing and deletes a production database through the UI, who is liable?
Exactly. And that wasn't even the only thing they shipped. The roster for March is stacked.
What else?
They launched Claude 3.7 Sonnet, which came with extended thinking enabled by default for complex reasoning.
Oh, right.
They didn't just make it smarter, they made it natively ponder complex problems before answering, simulating a chain of thought process to reduce those very hallucinations.
They also shipped massive updates to the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. Let's do a quick ELI 5 explain. I'm 5 for MCP because that sounds like deep enterprise alphabet soup.
It does.
What is it and why does it matter?
Think of MCP as a standardized universal translator for data. Before MCP, if Anthropic wanted Claude to be able to read your company's specific Google Drive or your specific GitHub repository, they had to write a custom one-off integration for every single tool.
Which is a nightmare.
It's called the N-squared problem of integrations. It scales terribly. MCP is an open source standard that says, here is the universal way AI models should connect to local data sources.
Got it.
It's like the invention of the USB port, but for AI data access. In March, they expanded the enterprise-managed authorization controls for MCP, giving IT teams much more granular power over what data these models could securely access.
And perhaps most tellingly, alongside all these technical shifts, they had to push major updates to their acceptable use policy.
The acceptable use policy update is the quietest but most important signal of the whole month.
Why?
They specifically had to legally clarify the rules around autonomous task execution. They had to define what you are and are not allowed to let an autonomous AI agent do on your behalf on a live computer.
Right.
You only spend the money on lawyers to write those policies when the technology has crossed the threshold from a theoretical lab experiment into daily scalable practice.
And it is a fast-moving reality everywhere. It's not just Anthropic making these leaps.
No, OpenAI is right there too.
Exactly. OpenAI shipped GPT 5.3 Codex in February, which was explicitly classified as high capability for cybersecurity and coding tasks. Both companies are in an absolute sprint toward massive IPOs expected later in 2026.
Yep.
They are fighting tooth and nail, poaching top talent from each other, like Anthropic snagging OpenAI VP Max Schwarzer earlier in March. The pace of the entire AI ecosystem is breakneck, and it feels like we are crossing a new threshold every single week.
Which brings us to the ultimate friction point of this entire deep dive.
Yeah.
The true dilemma for the people actually working in the industry.
Well, right. Let's look at this through the lens of the enterprise IT practitioner, the people listening to this who actually have to keep the lights on, manage the budgets, and keep the data secure. Because this is where the paradox of March 2026 hits home with terrifying clarity.
It really does.
On one hand, you have AI agents reaching general availability that are capable of taking over your mouse, visually navigating software, writing complex code, and finding zero-day vulnerabilities in production systems.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, the literal company that built these genius-level agents was compromised by a misconfigured blog posting tool.
It exposes a fatal flaw in modern enterprise security architecture.
It really does.
We have discussed how the Anthropic CMS leak was a failure of default settings. It was public unless explicitly marked private. It didn't require a master hacker. It required a browser and curiosity.
Right.
And here is the hard truth. This is not a unique Anthropic problem. This is the defining failure mode of the modern enterprise.
Because enterprise IT teams are incredible at defending the fortress.
They are.
They flawlessly audit their complex, high-risk perimeters. They monitor the core databases with AI anomaly detection. They lock down the API layers. They buy the million-dollar Palo Alto firewalls. They run penetration tests on their core products.
All of that.
But they completely ignore the boring system.
The vulnerability of the mundane.
Exactly.
Think about the shadow IT infrastructure that actually runs the day-to-day operations of a modern company. It's not just the core code base on GitHub.
Yeah.
It's the content management systems. It's the thousands of Notion workspaces and Confluence pages scattered across different departments.
Oh, the Notion page.
Right. It's the massive, sprawling Google Drives and SharePoint folders where permissions haven't been audited in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's the dusty, forgotten staging environments that were spun up for a 2-week sprint 6 months ago to test a feature and never decommissioned. These systems are viewed by security teams as low-risk administrative tools, but they carry massive, real-world data risk.
Because what actually lives in those boring systems? It's not just lunch menus and holiday
A
schedules.
lot at all.
That is where the marketing teams are drafting the unannounced features. That is where the product managers are staging the release notes for the next big pivot.
Yes.
That is where executives draft their highly sensitive strategy memos and M&A plans before they are finalized and secured. The intellectual property often lives in the collaboration tools long before it lives in the code base.
Exactly. And yet, the governance applied to those collaboration tools is often non-existent. Anyone in the company can spin up a Notion page, dump a sensitive roadmap into it, and invite external guests.
Right.
Anyone can upload a PDF to a CMS and forget to check the private box.
So the core conflict, the impossible, almost comical tension that an IT operator faces right now is this. You, as an IT professional, are being asked by your executive team to write governance policy for autonomous AI agents.
Yeah.
You are supposed to figure out how to securely deploy an AI that can visually use a computer, write code, and bypass APIs, while simultaneously your own company's CMS, or your equivalent of it, is likely sitting there with default public read permissions, totally unmonitored.
Wow.
The technological capabilities you are asked to manage are in the year 2026, but the administrative governance you are relying on is fundamentally failing to keep up. It's stuck in 2014.
It is a state of severe operational cognitive dissonance.
That's a great phrase for it.
We are terrified of the superintelligent AI rogue agent going Skynet on us, but we are actually being defeated in reality by the intern forgetting to uncheck a box on WordPress.
Wow.
We are focused entirely on the existential, futuristic risks while completely failing at the operational basics.
Which means we cannot just admire the problem. We can't just talk about the irony of Anthropic's leak and move on to the next tech news cycle.
No, you need to fix it.
We need to talk about how you, the listener, avoid becoming the next Fortune headline. Let's look at an actionable blueprint.
The beautiful thing about mundane vulnerabilities is that they don't require million-dollar solutions to fix.
They don't.
No, they don't require buying another AI tool. They just require attention and process.
So here is the 15-minute test. I challenge you, the listener, to perform a rogue audit tomorrow morning. Don't ask for permission.
Don't form a committee.
Exactly. Don't schedule a meeting about it. Just do it with your morning coffee. Pick one single system in your organization that is not your primary code repository.
Pick a shared drive.
Pick a shared drive. Pick your company's CMS. Pick an old staging environment or a Confluence instance. And ask yourself 3 very simple questions. Number one, who can read draft or unpublished content in this system?
Number 2.
Number 2, is that list of people documented anywhere officially?
And number 3.
Number 3, when was the last time that list was actually reviewed and audited by a human being?
And here is the key to this exercise. The hesitation metric.
What is that?
If answering any of those 3 questions requires even a moment of hesitation, if you have to say to yourself, well, I think it's just the marketing team, but maybe IT has global admin rights, and actually we had that external design agency helping us last year, do we revoke their access when the contract ended?
Oh, man.
If you hesitate, you have found your security gap.
It is that simple.
That gap is your park bench with the blueprints. And remember, exploiting that gap doesn't require a master hacker with a 0-day exploit. It doesn't require a state-sponsored syndicate. It just requires someone with a web browser, an understanding of directory traversal, and a little bit of curiosity.
Or, to bring it back to the terrifying technology of March 2026, it requires an autonomous AI agent built by someone else scanning the web for open directories at millions of requests per second.
Exactly.
And that is the final provocative thought I want to leave you with today.
Exactly.
But we've talked about the collision of these two worlds, the incredibly fast, increasingly autonomous AI tools, and the slow, error-prone human IT infrastructure.
The tension we talked about.
Right. If our AI models, like Mythos, like the agents using Claude computer use, are getting smart enough to autonomously hack complex code bases and find logical 0-day vulnerabilities, but our human IT teams are still leaving CMS default settings on public read access, what happens next?
It's a scary question.
Will the next major corporate leak be discovered by a human security researcher like Roy Paz clicking around in a browser? Or will it be discovered by an autonomous AI agent that was just wandering the web looking for an open door? And eventually, if human administration is this inherently flawed and we can't even remember to check a privacy box, Will we have to deploy AI agents just to govern and audit our boring human administrative mistakes? Will we need an AI just to make sure the door is locked behind us?
It's a fascinating and somewhat humbling paradigm shift.
Yeah.
We may have to rely on the very technology that scares Wall Street to protect us from our own administrative negligence.
It's the ultimate paradox. You can find everything at afrankly.com. Subscribe free on Substack, watch on YouTube, and listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just search AI Frankly.
Frankly.
AI Frankly. Are we having fun yet?